Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Celebrate Southern Africa, spot on 8 o'clock. Wow, how did I manage that? This evening, I can't tell you how chuffed I am to be chatting to Lola from Young Mary's, because her business is something that attracted my eye on social media. I find it fascinating how we connect with different businesses in different ways and different conversations. So tell me about the name of your brilliant business, Lola.
Well, hello, Dawn. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have tonight, too. So I have a brand named Young Mary's, which is a bit of a weird name, doesn't give much away. But actually, Young Mary's is a home fragrance business. So we have candles, wax melts, and diffusers, all things that make your home and your space smell warm and cozy and inviting. But the brand is actually named after my grandmother, Mary, my maternal grandmother, who raised me when I was young. So the name is quite something that's quite personal and very, inspiring to me. So that's where that comes from.
And where does the young bit come in? Because your grandma was young at one stage, but she obviously wasn't very young when she was your granny.
No, she wasn't. But my grandmother was, she was born and raised in Nigeria, West Africa. Not that that needs to be said, but she got married when she was quite young herself. She got married, and by the time she was the age I am now, she had 6 kids. Wow. I'm in my early 30s. So she had her first child at 21. By the time she was 30, she had 6 of them. She always wanted to become a teacher, but it wasn't until her kids got a little bit older that she was able to go back and start teaching again. So as a little kid, one of the first things my grandmother told me all the time was, take the opportunities to see the world when you're young. If there's something you want to do, if you have a dream, go for it when you're young. You have to see the world, seize the opportunity, take chances, take risks. She was a very big proponent of do what you want to do to make yourself happy and do it now. Don't wait. So it's kind of this narrative. She passed away in 2009, but it's a narrative that's always been in my mind that if there's something you want to do, there's something that you're passionate about, if there's something that's gnawing away at you, don't wait, for some future date. Do it now when you have the means and ability to dream about it. Just go for it. So that's where that phrase Young Mary's is. When I think about the brand and when I think about what I want to accomplish with the brand, I think about my grandmother and how, because of her sacrifices and the sacrifices of my mom, I'm able to accomplish these dreams that I have today. So
that's such a warm story. And I think, the story behind a brand is always so very important. Now, I see behind you, you have a star there on Nigeria. What are the significances of the stars on the map?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So like I said, Young Mary's is a home fragrance business. We have candles, wax melts, diffusers, all of that. But what's a bit different about us is that all of our scents are inspired by different parts of Africa. You can get a candle anywhere, but we like to think that with our candles, we honestly take our customers on a journey. So each of these stars, we have 9 fragrances as of now, but each of these stars represents where that candle fragrance inspiration comes from. So I actually have one of my candles here. So each candle, it's either named after a country or a city or a site, but we also show you where in Africa that is. Because obviously being based in the UK, everyone knows Africa, where the continent is, but the truth is our geography probably isn't the best as far as where the countries and cities are. So that's what this map is. It's a representation of the stories that we're trying to tell, the journeys we want people to be inspired to take. So they're right. That star right there is northern Nigeria, a city called Kano.
And so that's where your grandmother's from?
No, actually, my grandmother was from the south of Nigeria. Yes, but when I knew I wanted a candle or a fragrance that represented Nigeria, and as I was playing around with different scents and oils and reading more about the history, the city of Kano, which is in the north, it's a very ancient city. It's existed for millennia, so it's one of the oldest cities in Nigeria. And in the city, they have these ancient dye pits, many of which are still in use today. So it was actually a story that I wanted to share. And my whole family is really upset because they don't know why I don't have a Lagos candle. They think I took it too far by not having Lagos or somewhere in the South. But I wanted to tell the story about the city of Kano because it's not something that a lot of us, even if you've been to Nigeria before, you probably haven't been to the north. Everyone knows Lagos. Not as many people know the story of Kano. So
what is the scent then of Kano?
Oh, so the fragrance Kano is actually, it has some sandalwood. Okay. Some sandalwood with a little bit of black pepper. Because actually in the city of Kano, sandalwood is a very common smell. If you're walking on the streets, if you're in the old town of Kano, sandalwood is something that you're gonna pick up the fragrances, you're gonna pick up the smells of that fragrance. And all my candles are sort of like that. There's something in each fragrance that connects to the place that's the inspiration. In the case of Kano, it's the sandalwood. In the case of the candle I had before, Maputo, Mozambique has some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. Not necessarily in Maputo, but Maputo being the capital. So that candle is made out of some seaweed oil and juniper berries. So it's a very fresh, sand, sun, and sea fragrance. It's meant to elicit, summertime and holidays and being by the beach and the freshness of fresh air and white sand. And underneath each candle, actually, I always joke that you get a geography lesson with every Young Mary product. But underneath each candle, it actually tells you the fragrance profile and a little bit about where that fragrance comes from. So they're not just random smells, they're really rooted and connected to these places. And it's my hope that, whenever people buy a Young Mary's product, that you're not just buying a candle, you're buying a little, journey. It makes these places that can seem so exotic a lot more approachable. And yeah, that's really what we're about.
So we know, the power of smell, and it must be so much fun for you to research them. It must take you ages, and you get because I would just spend I'd go through Wikipedia and go through this these tunnels of research. It must be so much fun.
I thoroughly enjoy the process. Research is right. I think it can be a lot of work, and I actually call the scents stories because that's genuinely what they are. Each one is like a little door that you peek behind, that you learn more about this place you might not have known. And you're right, people don't think about it, but the sense of smell, as far as unlocking memories, it's one of the most powerful senses we have. And so many people just kind of take it for granted, but odors and the memories and the reactions we have when we smell certain things, it's so incredibly powerful. But it is a lot of work, but I thoroughly enjoy it. Our newest fragrance is called Tunisia, and it's available in these like black and white candles that I use sometimes. And Tunisia, based on the country in North Africa, it's a mix of flowers found in Europe and fruit found in the Far East. So it's citrusy, it's bright, but it's also because Tunisia as a country has been a confluence of civilization since the beginning. It's been this melting pot of different cultures and histories and languages. So the candle is a hodgepodge of things that you wouldn't necessarily think would go together. And it's just a beautiful representation of this country that's a mix of things that you wouldn't necessarily think would go together. So it is a lot of work. And behind each candle, each little blurb, there's a lot of research, a lot of hours on Wikipedia, a lot of books, but it's something that I want to share. I want people to associate these countries and cities with beautiful things, not necessarily what we see on the news about poverty and war and all this stuff, because Africa is so much more than that,
No, I totally agree with you. Have you always been inspired by scent? I mean, I think about when I was a teenager, I loved incense. It was really in and it was trendy, and my room was always full of it. My mother thought I was smoking dope because, why else are you burning incense, But I've always liked exotic fragrances. Is something always been in your life, or is it just a new thing that you kind of explored when you were an adult?
No, actually, similar to you, I've always liked incense and candles. I burn both incense and candles today. I grew up just, it's probably because when I was 13, 14, had a little bit of pocket money, what could I actually afford to buy for myself? You know, some magazines and some incense or some cheaper candles. So I have always had a candle burning. I remember when I was in uni, which is when I actually started making candles, because when my candles would get about halfway, I'd melt them down and combine them. Something I do not recommend, but I, you know, when you're in uni,
don't try this at home.
You gotta do what you gotta do. You know, you don't have as much disposable income as you might like. But same as you. I've always liked the calmness that comes with lighting a candle. It's something very small, but I think when you're home and you make that conscious decision to, okay, I'm just gonna light this. It's like that 10 seconds of serenity. You know, things can be going crazy, but once you light that candle, you sit on the couch, it's just like a, and so I've always seen that. I've always been into that.
Yeah, and it changes the lighting in the room. It makes it warmer.
Yeah.
And it's always something that when we want to slow down and remember somebody, that's also when we light a candle. I know people who light a candle when they sitting down to write something, you know, that's their inspiration. Yeah. So they go into their quiet space, they've created a little corner of their living room, maybe they light a candle, and then they just feel inspired to create and write or whatever. So I think that's I think every home needs a Young Mary's candle.
I think so too.
Wow, isn't that amazing? We both agree.
I couldn't have said it better myself. No, but it's true. It's true. And
so you've been doing markets though, and obviously during, you know, COVID. I mean, that's not something that, I mean, most big brands, I know lots of big brands start out at markets. It's like, it seems the place that where you can start testing your product, seeing how people feel about it. So you've always done markets, and have those been great fun? Because I remember you telling me about children then coming to point to the places on the map as well.
Yeah, I love markets. Like you said, a lot of small businesses start with markets. I started with markets, and I still try to do them as many as I can, because not only is it where you get to find out really quick if something's going to be successful or not, but it's just a chance to interact with people and, you know, get feedback, genuine feedback. And for me, kids are the best. The same thing you asked about the stars. Kids are so drawn to, what is that blob? What do those stars mean? And I'm not sure if you can see at the bottom.
Yeah, the flags.
I also have flags, and each flag is from the different countries represented in our range. And I love when little kids' eyes light up and, you know, do you know any countries in Africa? No, I don't. But then I point to the flag here, which is the Egyptian flag, and I say, you know, there's a country in Africa that has these 3 pyramids that are really famous. Egypt? And they get so excited when they realize Africa is not some crazy faraway place that you've never heard of. No, it's where the pyramids are, Egypt. It's where Mount Kilimanjaro, that big mountain, Kenya, you know, and that's what we're really about. Like, I've made candles for a very, very long time, but Young Mary's is about bridging people together. That we all have candles in our home. When you have a Young Mary's candle, it's an invitation to a conversation. Oh, where's that from?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. You know, I at our local pub, I put together I thought it was really easy. It was a quiz round on Africa. Wow. Everyone was really stumped.
Nope.
And everyone was like, yeah, no, we know this. Oh, no, we don't know any of this. And I thought it was really easy. But, you know, coming from Africa, I kind of expected, you know, I'm expected to know a bit about Africa. So what's happened during COVID then for you, if you haven't been able to do the markets?
Yeah, so that's been a shame because obviously the situation we're in, we just don't have access to markets like we used to. We do have a website, www.youngmarys.com, nice and easy. And I'm really lucky and fortunate that there's been a big push, I think, for consumers to support local businesses. And, you know, that goes for myself too. I can't even tell you how many handmade cards I've bought this year. Like, all my cards are handmade, hand finished, because I think now that we all have a little bit more time, we're all home. You're not just rushing out to grab something. I think we're making purchases with a little bit more thought.
Yeah.
But because of that, we've seen a complete upswell in our online orders. I thought markets shutting down and COVID would be the end of, Young Marys, as I'm sure a lot of small business owners did. But we've been really fortunate that, people are going out of their way. They're searching for smaller independent brands. They're wanting to support minority-owned businesses, for example. So that support has really gone a long way from us and for us, and really kept us going through all this.
Well, I think that's something, people are talking about all the negatives from the pandemic. And yes, there are way more negatives than there are positives, with so many people losing their lives. But ultimately, I think, like you say, there's been a shift slightly in the way people are consuming. I'm just hoping that sticks with us.
True.
Because when during the war, it was in the World War II, it was 5 years, and that was a big chunk of someone's life. 1 year, in a year's time, will we still feel that committed? I mean, I'd like to believe I would. I'm not sure what people are going to feel, but I also believe that if people have discovered a brand they love, they stick with it. It's very difficult to change someone's mind when they have a Young Mary's candle and on order every month.
Or 2 a month.
Oh, I was just using a random example.
No, you're right. And I do, same as you, I would hope that the positive changes we've seen now, be people being more aware of what they're shopping for, what they're buying across the board, even things like, the push to use far less plastic, single-use plastics. I really hope that now that we see these things are possible, that's a change that sticks around, because I think you're right. I think it would be a shame if in a year or 2 years we go back to, the way things were earlier. So yeah, I think COVID has been a really difficult time for a lot of people across the world, but there have been some positives that have come out of it, whether it's how we engage with one another, us not taking the NHS for granted, for example. And I would hope that those positive changes, supporting local, for example, continue. Yeah, and same, starting with me. Like, I would hope that I continue to buy handmade cards, even when, I can pop to the store and buy another one. I hope that that's something that I keep in the back of my mind. If you can, try and support the independent guys.
So do you also stock in shops, or are you just selling to individuals?
No, we are in some shops. So I'm based in Newbury, which is in West Berkshire. Sorry, my American accent, West Berkshire. But I am in a couple shops. I'm in a store in London called Diverse Gifts in Brixton. Then out in Bristol, on the other side of the country, we're in a store called Pryor, which is in central Bristol. I also have some online retailers. All of Young Mary's products range is vegan friendly. So we're also at the Vegan Kind online supermarket. And then we have some smaller mom and pop stores. There's Westbury Craft Space, which is in Westbury, right around the corner from you. And then a little yoga studio, actually, where they sell our candles as part of care packages. Which I love.
Great idea. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's Bloom Yoga Studio, and you can get a candle, some tea leaves. You can get I think they have like massage balls and the newspaper that prints happy, positive stories. So that's the perfect place for us, is a care package like that.
What a great idea. I was talking to a friend about collaboration and the value of collaborations.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is an example of that, putting products together to enhance an experience. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah, because that's a proverb, isn't it? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I agree with you.
I actually think that's an African expression. I think people have hijacked it, like they hijacked, all our best. My favorite is "It takes a village to raise a child," and that is exactly it. I mean, your business is your child. And you need the village. The village needs to come together to nurture and raise your child. And what's your next fragrance? Are you working on one?
So I'm actually working on two different things right now. So I'm working on releasing a new product, hopefully next year, room sprays.
Oh, I love those.
Yes, and that's actually from feedback from our customers and our clients, basically, for spaces where you can't really burn, like for example, when we go back to the offices, you can't really burn a candle in your office or in your cubicle, even though you might want to, depending on what someone has for lunch, but that's not really appropriate. So so it was actually some Young Mary's customers who suggested that they would love us to include room sprays in our range. So that's something that we're hoping will be ready to go next year, as well as our newest member of the Young Mary's family, which I'm not going to talk about yet though. So you'll have to invite me back next year to talk about that. Yeah.
Well, you'll have to come back, but it's just me and you. I mean, no one else will know.
I've caught up on all your virtual markets, so I know for a fact it's not me and you, but nice try.
Oops. But please do let us, can you give us a hint if it's North or South Africa, southern, of the continent?
Okay, I can give you a hint.
Okay.
It's right around here. Does that help you? Right? Yeah.
Do you, what you could do is just throw a dart and select a country.
Hey, maybe I'll try that one. Maybe when I start running out of ideas, maybe I'll give that a try.
Well, there's lots of countries in Africa, so you can keep going forever.
Eventually, I would love to get, I can't say Young Mary's is going to have something from all 54. I can't say that, but I would like eventually to know that, the majority of the continent is covered. So right now we have 9 fragrances. A lot more are coming. Trust me, a lot more are coming.
And you must just love the process of then testing the fragrances as well. Where do you get your scents from?
That is what comes first, the chicken or the egg kind of question. And it is the $1 million question. I wish I had a scientific answer, but I really don't. Because like you, I've always been into fragrances and scents. For me, whenever I smell something that stands out, it sticks with me, and then I try and recreate it. So some of our fragrances, it starts as, I'll give you an example. I have Côte d'Ivoire, which is one of our spring fragrances. So it's available every year in the springtime. Ivory Coast is the largest cocoa producer in the world. So the Côte d'Ivoire candle is basically a chocolate cake. It has cocoa, hazelnut, brown sugar. It smells delicious. Do not eat it.
Okay. I was just going to say, it sounds like something to eat.
It smells absolutely. If you burn Côte d'Ivoire and someone comes to your house, they will think you baked a chocolate cake. Fact. So that was a situation where that's a fact I knew about Ivory Coast. I knew that they're this huge chocolate producer. Cocoa producer. They don't make a lot of chocolate themselves, but the country is trying to invest in its chocolate production capacity. So I knew from the beginning, I want a candle from Ivory Coast to represent the cocoa industry. Because the truth is, when you think about chocolate, when you think about cocoa, the one country in the world you should think about is Ivory Coast. And people don't. So that's where I had this idea, and I knew this is what I wanted it to be. A smell like Maputo was the complete opposite. I had no idea where I was going when I started playing around with seaweed oil. I just wanted to do something that was fresh, that was fruity, but I didn't know where it was going to lead me. So I played around and I found a fragrance that I liked, and then I had to develop a story for, okay, what this smell, sun, sand, sea, beach, what does that mean? Mozambique. So it happens really, really differently, and there's no scientific
formula.
Method. No, I wish there was.
No, I don't think there needs to be a formula. It needs to be really quite intuitive, and it needs to be part of the journey, because each of those candles have a story, and if they all have the same story, it would be like, well, then what's the point, really?
True. I like that. I like that. It's chaotic, but it works. It works. So I'll keep doing it.
Great, brilliant. Keep making those candles. So tell us now, you have 1 week left really before Christmas, before you close for Christmas. How can people buy your gorgeous candles?
That is true. And thank you for reminding me, but we'll be closing for Christmas on the 15th of December. But our candles are still available online. Like it's www.youngmarys.com. We're on all social media channels, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And all our handles are at It's Young Marys. So ITS Young Marys. You can message us on Facebook, message us on Instagram, send us a message on Twitter. You can email us, info@youngmarys.com, or you can get in touch with us on our website.
Fantastic. And what is your plan then for the new year? Well, it'll depend really on the market situation.
It really will. It really will. I would love to be back at markets because it is something I really enjoy. So now the first market I have on the books is in May. So we do have a little bit of time, and I'm hoping it'll be able to go ahead. It's actually in Spitalfields in London, the old Spitalfields market. And it was canceled this year, but they booked us on for next year. I'm not going to book anything earlier than that because I think you probably need some time to kind of see what's going on. But if everything, happens the way we want it to happen, the vaccine rollout keeps going well, hopefully by May, we'll be back out there hitting the streets, meeting people, meeting those kids, showing them the stars.
Teaching them about Africa because they need to learn. And if they're learning through the candles, then you've ticked lots of boxes.
Even better. Like these, being Africans, we have our own ideas of what the world should be like. But the truth is Africa is integral to the world, and we can all do our part in reshaping that narrative, so
it does need to be reshaped. And you're right, there's too much about Africa that is negative and not enough about how amazingly vibrant, creative, colorful, inspirational the continent really is.
I agree.
Well, it's been absolute pleasure, and I'm so pleased we finally got to share the story with everybody else and all your stories. And we have to talk about all the other candles. We've only spoken about Maputo, and we've only spoken about which ones else did we speak to? The Ivory Coast. And was those the only two that we mentioned?
Yeah, no, and then I mentioned Kano earlier.
Oh yes, Kano, Nigeria.
No, but there are a lot more. I have Alexandria, which is the one from Egypt, in northern Egypt, which is actually Lily of the Valley. And in Alexandria, I can't say every single cab driver, but every cab I took, all those drivers had Lily of the Valley hanging off their rearview mirror. Why they did, I do not know. But that was, again, one of those situations where I knew that people should know that. It's such a quirk, So there's Alexandria. I have Fez from Morocco, Lake Victoria from East Africa. It's a little bit of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania mixed in there. I think that's it. Is that it?
Lesotho.
How could I forget Lesotho? Lesotho is another one, and Madagascar as well, which is one of our winter fragrances.
Does that have vanilla? What is the smell of Madagascar?
Well, so Madagascar actually has some cinnamon and clove, so it's a bit of a wintry
smell.
Yeah, so a lot of people associate Madagascar with vanilla. Madagascar has a lot more than vanilla. It's a spice heaven. It has such a unique ecology and history to that country. So that's what I wanted to capture there, that there's a lot more than vanilla that comes out of Madagascar. It's like the opposite of Cote d'Ivoire in that sense. Everyone knows Madagascar vanilla, but there's more. So that's the story we're trying to tell. It's a spice heaven.
Oh, well, I think you got 9 candles at the moment. That's 1 a month for most of next year. If people would like to get in touch and get their candles for the whole 9 months of the first 9 months of the year.
We can set up a prescription. First of every month, you get a new journey. You get to take a new trip that's COVID secure. Look at that.
We've just sorted out all the retail on the planet. Well, Lola, it's been I've loved chatting to you, and I am thrilled that you got to share your story, but I just want more people to know about your candles, that they aren't just candles. They are incredibly special. They have wonderful stories, and for anybody who has any connection or love or passion or curiosity or interest in Africa, they sit perfectly in your home.
Love you saying that. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to share what we do. Absolutely.
And have a fantastic Christmas, and no doubt we will connect very soon.
Yes, happy holidays.
Bye-bye.